So it has come to my attention that for the longest time, the cherished way of life that my wife and I have, basically dedicated our lives to forging, is on I would say, is being threatened by appropriators. People who, in my hometown, if you know places like, certain parts of the East Coast, they're very, very underhanded and very catty in the way that they go about stealing credit for things that they don't really deserve credit for. It is that kind of culture back in that part of my that era of my life. Well, it turns out that this is an extreme example of that. I have some connections that have informed me that the Turiklian way of life is being attempted to be appropriated predominantly, but not exclusively, by the Jewish community, mostly the Zionist community. They do this a lot, actually, and it's kind of been their way since ancient times. If you look at the various advents in which their holy books and their scriptures and things like that were edited. To incorporate things of the pagan cultures that they interacted with. If you know the genuine history of the Jewish people, it's like this. They originally started as a subgroup of the original Canaanite religion. They started off as polytheistic. It wasn't Greco-Roman Egyptian polytheism, as some will undoubtedly try to paint it in the future, but it was really just their sort of hodgepodge, slap on. Copy, cut, and paste version of, various religions that they interacted with. But they started off, their roots is in the Canaanite religion. They were a subgroup that was not persecuted, and they actually just left of their own accord, and they wandered as nomads and mercenaries. Essentially, going, settling in different lands, settling in different nations, and then picking up things as they went. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing in and of itself. Lots of other cultures did that exact same thing. But here's the difference, is that, there's a difference between being inspired by something and just outright plagiarizing it with the intent to fully steal credit from whatever from whoever originated the idea or the concept or what have you. Well, this is an instance of very extreme attempts at plagiarism, of course, because Turiklianism is, its true nature and its true philosophy, and all the things about it are secret, reserved only for those who've actually proven their moral purity to qualify for the order. And because I haven't revealed enough about my way of life for it to actually be appropriated, these are sort of comical attempts at botched appropriations. Although, we have seen genuine Turiklians start to pop up all over the country. We congregate amongst each other in a different way that people would assume. You're not allowed, by the way, in the order, just by being at the services and things of that nature. Here's what we do. We train people in the pews, but the pews are not the point. We train people in the pews to sort of filter and vet those who are qualified to join the order. And we've had some people who, the Zionists who are attempting to steal our ways, sort of congregate amongst us, from what I've heard from my wife. Now, understand, I'm the Grand Master of the Order, but I'm not currently actively involved in any of its institutional functions. That task is left predominantly to my wife and to Africus, one of my associates, someone who one of my close friends, actually. I consider him like a brother, and to other members who have qualified them, other members of other higher-ranking members of the order. We have people in the order who are not at the highest level. That this has been something that my wife has done. My wife and collaborating with others. For the not recently, but for the past, according from what she told me, the past 10 years or so, she saw the attempts of appropriation way before she let me know that was the case. And also, there's a reason we call it Turiklianism, and that is because of this. Because it is it is formed due to the God that essentially chose me. What I mean by that is this: I work with many deities. Many spirits. I work with the Greco-Roman Egyptian pantheon. And I work with spirits that don't even really have, any sort of, lore behind them. They're spirits that I've either summoned myself or that have sort of been made privy to my existence. Some of them may be goetic spirits that don't have their exact, their exact, I guess, what's the word I'm searching for? They don't have their exact name or their exact descriptions in the book, but they are counted somewhere amongst the various good familiars that are referenced in the spirits that the spirits that are documented. Documentation. That's probably the word I was searching for. I'm of course going to change that with our publication of the Tericlean summoning arts. We have a very unique system of summoning that is sort of a midway between quote unquote Solomonic magic. Anyone who studied the history of that tradition knows that it wasn't really Solomonic at all. It was Greco-Egyptian and mostly European, but you got to understand back in the old days, the Middle Ages, Europe, there was almost a fetishization. I want to say a fetishization, but Judaism was treated as something exotic, and it was incorporated into Western esotericism because it was considered a quote unquote universal to humanity, not because Western esotericism is Jewish at its root by nature. It's actually Greco-Roman Egyptian at its nature. That's why we use, that's why the 4 elements are in it. If you don't know, the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, and water, distinguished, well, there's 5 elements technically, but distinguished from the 5 elements in the Orients, in Taoism, for example, the Wuxing, the 5 elements in Western esotericism, they come from Greco-Roman philosophers that were not Christian, that were not Jewish, that were not anything like that. They were polytheistic, as is appropriate to their time and place, and they venerated the Greek and Roman gods. They were essentially pagan. Western civilization itself was founded and built by paganism over a very long period of time. And this is Tericleanism is essentially a syncretic way of life, not even a religion, but a way of life that is adapted to the age of Aquarius. So that's why it can't be a religion, because if you know anything about the Aquarian, the age of Aquarius, that the idea of a dogmatic, book religion that is, sort of we are the one, the true, the only way kind of BS. That's not going to jive with the energy of Uranus. It's just not going to work. This is why people like in power they're going to eventually try to paint Tericleanism as just an appropriation of ancient Judaism, even though they don't even know what it is. Number one, number two, it has nothing in common with ancient Judaism. It's not that Jewish people cannot be Tericlean. We do have Jewish Tericleans. We do have a Jewish Tericleanism. It's just if you understand the modus operandi of our way of life, that not only is it fundamentally antithetical to ancient Judaism and any of those 3 monotheistic religions, but it's something also of its own accord. It is syncretic, but it's not necessarily just different things splashed into each other. My wife and I are, we're enlightened. I guess you can call us enlightened individuals. We're free thinkers at our root, and we know how to come up with new creative ideas. And and we know how to. And a lot of our ideas are not just what other spiritual teachings have taught, but they're refined versions of those things. We spent a lot of time on this working together, and it's damn shameful that people will just try to take that from us, just not because they even care about this way of life, but just to glorify themselves, just to satisfy their own little monkey ego, if you will. They're not the only ones. Members of my family, personally, have tried to appropriate this. Whenever you have something good, and it's that good, and you're gonna have people like that are gonna try to do something like that at some point. So this is why you don't share your ideas with the masses. Some people are going to take to it. Other people are just going to try to take it from you and claim it's their own. So here's what we're going to do. My wife is currently working on a website called FaultyLittleOnes.com. FaultyLittleOnes.com is it's a chronicling of the schmoofty, the dorky little runts that are trying to appropriate our ways, and the cartoonish, almost comical ways they go about it that they think are so hot. We're going to document this very thoroughly. I'm thankful to all the Tericlians who have seen this butchered appropriation of our aesthetic. Not realizing that they don't even know that you can't just appropriate our aesthetics that easily, especially if you have no splendor in your soul to do so. We've seen a lot of jokers try to look at us like, haha, we have what you're trying to do. Oh, and we're conspiring to keep you from it. And it's just a joke to think this. They don't even know what it is I'm going for, but they keep adjusting each and every time, and it's comical to see just how short they fall of the true splendor of Tericlian aesthetics. But here's the thing: aesthetics are not just aesthetics in Tericlianism. There's something more there. But in essence, look out for FaultyLittleOnes.com. It's a roast site. I know we don't really like to do stuff like this, but we understand that it's necessary because you don't play kindly. This is how you got to talk to runts like that. This is how you got to treat runts like that. They're not going to. You can't just kill them with kindness and expect them to fall. To behave well. Because think about it like this: when you have someone who thinks more like a monkey, who's so upset, who is just delusional in how superior they think they are, because they know that regardless of what they tell themselves, they always end up falling short of those they believe are inferior to them each and every time, and they get so consumed by this, they're always going to interpret everything that comes to them as just a game of one-upsmanship. So if you try to kill them if you try to be kind to them, say, just leave us in peace. We've already tried that. We know it doesn't work. Now it works with good people, with benevolent people, not with people like that. Not with people who are just so depraved like that they can't be anything but depraved. Because here's what they're going to see that as. They're going to see that as you tell them. They're not going to see that as a gesture of goodwill. I mean you no harm. You don't need to do this. You can just live your way. We'll live our way. We'll both be happy. They don't see it that way. They see it as, oh, that person is trying to tell me that they're better than me by showing me that they're smarter than me and they're kinder than me. Yeah, that's why it doesn't work. So you really just got to roast them. You got to put the smackdown on these people in the way that you need to do it. And we hate to do this, but we never wanted this. But they brought it upon us, and they started it with us, but we're going to finish it. So look out for FaultyLittleOnes.com coming your way soon. Have a good night.